Howdy, folks. Welcome to the one and only original Country Bear Jamboree. Hit it, boys!
Welcome back. Cindy Dole here, Country Bear Jamboree style, because we're talking about ways to keep you safe in those places you call home. Home Wizards, where we help you improve your home and your life. So thanks for hanging out with me this Saturday on KFWB. And with me is Warden Patrick Foy, who's with the Department of Fish and Game. And we should mention, by the way, the website for the Department of Fish and Game, because if you do see a bear, who do you call? The website is D as in department, F as in fish, G as in game.ca.gov. So there you have it. So good to have you again, Warden. And if we do see a bear or something else that's, well, it's a wild animal, do we call Humane Society first, or what's the order that we do things in?
Well, it may not require a call at all. A mere sighting of a bear isn't necessarily cause for concern or alarm. And if you were to see one strolling by behind the fence without causing any trouble, then it's probably not necessary to make any notifications to us or animal control. Mm-hmm. The times when we want to hear about it is if the animal has actually taken aggressive behavior and caused either property damage or certainly if it's been any kind of a threat to a person.
Or what about to a pet? Oh, I hate hearing the stories.
Yes, absolutely, to pets as well. And that bears are not as commonly known to be a threat to pets as often as, say, coyotes or lions or mountain lions to domestic animals and in particular livestock. But bears certainly could be, but certainly if any kind of threat existed on domestic animals or pets, then that's definitely worth notification.
Yeah. But we can call the Humane Society. Sometimes you get a recording, I think, on the weekends, and then what would you do? You just call police, I guess, if there was something serious.
Oh, absolutely. If there's a major incident, you would call 911.
Okay.
And the police know how to get a hold of us. The problem with wardens is that there's only 240 wardens in the state of California, so we are not necessarily going to be available as fast as a local law enforcement officer is.
Well, guess what? I have your cell phone. I promise I won't give it up.
Yeah, I'm up in Northern California, so.
Well, I'll give you a good heads up. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, so if we do see a bear, I mean, all this business on the website talks about, looking large, waving your arms in the air, slowly walk backward. I don't know if I could do that. It feels silly, and I think I'd be nervous.
Well, yeah, and that advice goes for bears and coyotes and mountain lions, and it's most often the same. And that means standing tall, standing large, shouting aggressively at the animal, and not necessarily approaching that animal, but you don't necessarily have to turn and run. Because turning and running, as some people say, that might initiate a predatory response from especially a lion or something like that. Mm-hmm. Small children, unfortunately, are far more vulnerable to these kinds of attacks than adults, just because of their sheer size. So that becomes part of it. So if you have small kids with you, then certainly keep them close, pick them up, or go as far as throwing rocks at the animal that might be posing a threat. The other thing that, for people who are in an area that has wild animals regularly, I suggest they take a zipper, a whistle, and attach it to the zipper of their backpack if they walk to school or walk to the bus stop. And that whistle is going to be in the same spot and accessible at a moment's notice, and it's probably going to scare away any type of wild animal threat. And most importantly, which is far more a potential for an attack than wild animals, are domestic dogs, unfortunately, that pose a greater threat to people than their wild counterparts. So that could also be used to ward off an attacking domestic dog, just your neighbor's dog. Okay.
Have a whistle, or also keep some pots and pans, or maybe just your iPod, and then have it queued up to Lady Gaga real loud. Maybe that'll scare it off.
There's a few songs that on my kids' repertoire that would probably be more scary to a wild animal than others.
All right. Well, let's segue then from bears. Oh, before we leave bears, what about feral cats? Do they somehow attract bears, the feral cats that are hanging out in our neighborhood?
Oh, that's a great question, and I wouldn't say that the bears are going to be attracted to the feral cats.
Not the cats, but the stuff that they bring. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Not the cats themselves, but just the... Go ahead.
A lot of people, very well-meaning people, go out and they feed the feral cats.
Yes, yeah.
And that food could very well attract bears And one thing that attracts feral cats, that is attracted to feral cats more than anything else, are coyotes. So if there's an artificially maintained feral cat colony, there's a very good chance that coyotes are going to be attracted to that colony.
All right, well, perfect segue. So what about coyotes? I've seen a couple of them. I live in the Glendale, La Crescenta area, and I always get nervous when I see a coyote. In fact, a really thin, mangy one in the afternoon, walking down the street. I'm like, oh, gosh. You know what I mean? That's not supposed to happen, is it?
Yeah, it's not as often, and coyotes are typically pretty wary. When you start seeing them on a regular basis, that is a good indicator of a problem. And they are hanging around the neighborhood for a reason, and it's because they are getting access to food. And coyotes in particular are very, very good at getting into human sources of food, in particular pet food. And a 6-foot-high wooden fence is nothing more than a short hop and a skip for a coyote. It barely slows them down. We call them fence walkers sometimes, where they will run across the top leg of the 2x4 that are used to build the fence rail, and those coyotes can scoot around the top of it, and they look in both the yards on both sides of the fence looking for cats.
Oh, wow. I have 2 really big old English sheepdogs, and I feel like that they're safe enough, but you still never know. I mean, these coyotes seem ruthless.
And unfortunately, you have people who think I've got this Rottweiler or a German Shepherd or, pretty big, sturdy dog. They are no match for coyotes. And coyotes are really, really smart, and they work together. You're likely not going to have an attack occur by a single coyote against a dog that's its own size. But once you get more than one coyote, they can be very, very, very deadly and very quick. And they typically kill their prey by mutilation. So it's an awful way for these animals to end up in a fight with coyotes, especially if there's more than one.
Are we seeing more coyotes make their way into the suburbs these days?
I would say that's probably reasonably accurate. Yeah. I wouldn't want to cause alarm because there's coyotes aren't the big powerful animals like lions and bears are, but they can do quite a bit of damage to neighborhood pets, unfortunately. And when you have a cat that just disappears, and oftentimes or if you have multiple cats disappearing in a community and there are coyotes around, that's most likely the culprit, because they're just very, very quick. They snatch these cats and then they're gone. And they're smart enough not to try to stay around in the area. They'll snatch the cats, they'll hop a couple of fences, and unfortunately you just never see the cat again.
What about mountain lions? Are we having a big problem with them, and are they making their way into our neighborhoods?
Well, mountain lions are the population data suggests that their population has remained pretty stable over the last couple decades, really. And the lions are a little bit more difficult to manage because we just have little data about them. And when you have a lion that becomes dependent upon human sources of food, it's mostly in the form of domestic livestock. It's not as often in the form of domestic pets. So the people who have the greater problems with mountain lions are typically in much more rural areas that have the 20-acre parcel of property, and they're raising 15 goats and 20 sheep. And those are more commonly the people who have problems with lions.
How about rhinos? I'm just kidding you.
Big problem with rhinos in Southern California.
Just want to make sure you're listening. All right, well, Warden, it's been great having you, Warden Patrick Foy, and I guess we can get all kinds of great tips on your website. I really love it. It's, again, we can tell everybody how to find it. It's D as in department, F as in fish, G as in game, dfg.ca.gov, and you go on there and you have all kinds of articles and tips and things to do and how to report problems. So very good advice, and I feel a little safer somehow. I don't feel as nervous.
I hope so. And also, we have a website called keepmewild.org.
Yes.
It's maintained by Fish and Game, and that's got great tips on how to live with animals, everything from bears to lions to even wild turkeys.
Oh, good. Well, that's what we want in the end, right? Because they were here first. So thanks, Patrick Foy. Great having you. We'll have you back, okay? We didn't get to snakes. We'll get that next time.
I appreciate the time.
And unicorns, we have to talk about them. Anyway, as we segue into hour 2, we have a lot more fun in store. You know we do. That's what we love to do here on Home Wizards, so don't you go away. We're going to talk about pools. Is your pool looking a little nasty? How do you keep it looking sparkling clean? We got the answers for you, and also how to bring soul to the spaces you call home. Home Wizards, Cindy Dole, hour 2 coming your way next on KFWB News Talk 980.